Welcome back to the Lessons from the Animals series. In this video, we're going to be talking about lessons that we can learn from the eagle. So this particular lesson is going to focus on what we call the eagle's claw. So the eagle claw is like a style of martial arts. So you say eagle claw or Yingjiao, right? And it's also a trait of martial arts that's found outside of eagle boxing itself. So the idea is that eagle claw system as a fighting art is really a lot about joint locks and pressure points, as well as like really tough grip. Because the idea is that you're mimicking the eagle's talons, right? So your hands are becoming the talons. And if you ever seen an eagle's talons, you don't want to be gripped by one of those things. Those things will just dig those talons right into your skin. So what we try to learn from that is how to essentially adapt that with our human grip. So the eagle claw, right, is looked at several different ways in several systems. This is like the more common one. There's also eagle talons that utilize 3 fingertips like this, right? There's also ones that have fingertips together or fingertips apart, depending on your system or lineage. All are great, all have their own uses. But the idea here is that we need the grip strength. So there's a type of Qin Na that's a little bit older than the newer stuff that we have today. So we defer to it as old school Qin Na versus new school Qin Na. New school Qin Na, which does exist in the eagle claw system, refers to joint lock stuff like, you know, this kind of thing, or arm bars and stuff where like you'd put them into a lock. And then there's also the old school Qin Na system, which is a little bit less refined in a way and a little bit more brutal in a sense. Because the difference here is like one is more technical, and the old school Qin Na is I'm just going to grab you so hard that you scream. And I think we all can appreciate a little bit of that in our lives. But we do this through several different methods, right? I'm going to illustrate a couple of them here. So first, this is going to be like this is a iron ring, which is usually worn on your wrists, and you do techniques with them, right? And they're kind of like weights as well as a forearm conditioning drill. And then you can also use them for the eagle claw, where you're gripping around the ring like so, and you're gripping into it like you're trying to close and crush the ring. So it's just like a sort of static drill where we're holding this crushing force constantly. So we're always constantly building up that muscularity in the forearm for that crushing skill. And also, I don't have a jar with me today, but if this is to illustrate the top of the jar, right? A lot of training involves filling up a jar with sand and then gripping and then holding it upwards. And that way your grip strength is holding the jar upwards. And then as you get stronger in time, you fill more sand in and such like that. And another one that I like to use myself, which is good for both grip strength and coordination training, is that you get a sandbag or a mung bean filled bag. You just throw it up and catch it like so. A little bit of coordination training because you're trying to catch moving objects, but also grip strength because you're not, catching it like this where it's being caught by my arm, but I'm gripping it like this. So the only thing that's holding it upwards is my grip strength, right? And I have to try and dig into the mung beans or the sand as I'm gripping it. So those are a couple different ways to condition the eagle claw. So within eagle claw system, right, we condition the eagle claw so that it can really crush something as well as utilize the technique as well. So I might grab onto an arm, right, and give it a little break as well as digging into pressure points, right? Or I might just use old school Qin Na, grab to the side and just squeeze as hard as I can. And I kid you not, some people train to the point where they can grab and actually tear off your flesh, and that's a bit scary, but it does exist. But it's even become such a famous skill that even outside of eagle claw systems specifically, that you'll see people training stuff that's like the eagle claw, and they'll call it eagle claw or whatever they might call it in their training. But you might have internal arts like Xingyiquan, Baguazhang, and then they might have, right, like a eagle claw type training, and they'll just call it like this is eagle claw skill, right? So it's become such a good training that you can see it in other styles that aren't even the original one or supposedly the original one. But yeah, that's the eagle claw and what we can learn from the talons of the eagle. So see you in the next episode.